This French baguette launcher is an absolute beast, which is confusing because at first I really didn't like this vehicle, but you have to kind of play it a certain way for it to be actually good. But I'll get to all of that during my review. The EBRC Jag has a top speed of 90 kilometers per hour or about 56 miles per hour forwards, and then 25 kilometers or 15.5 miles per hour in reverse, which definitely does make it one of the fastest forward moving light tanks in the game and definitely at this BR, but its reverse speed is definitely not the best, especially when compared to other light tanks. So for speed, the EBRC Jag is going to get a 8 out of 10. As for agility, this vehicle is definitely heavier than something like an HSTVL, but it's definitely not as heavy as something like a Puma. Additionally, since this vehicle is wheeled, it doesn't have any form of neutral steering, although it still retains a pretty tight turning circle, and it is pretty maneuverable overall, especially at lower speeds. So for its agility, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now onto this thing's offense, you do get access to 4 NMP ATGM tandem missiles. These missiles can pen 1000 millimeters and have a guidance time of 50 seconds, allowing you to easily snipe basically anything around the battlefield. As for your main cannon, it is a 40 millimeter 2-plane stabilized auto-loaded autocannon, which your best round are the OFLTs with 157 millimeters of pen, but they only have 340 grams of mass. You also get access to HE time fuse, and shrapnel shells with fuses. All in all, you have 63 first order rounds with 183 rounds total, as well as a 7.62. Now the APFSD shells themselves are pretty powerful because in some cases you can actually lower front plate some Russian vehicles. But what makes this vehicle really good is its reload of 0.3 seconds, which allows you to dish out a lot of pain very quickly, kind of like the Swedish IFVs. My only major complaint is about the MPPs, which have horrible accuracy in some cases. Like these MMPs were pilots, then we would still have 2 towers in New York. Otherwise though, this thing's offense is pretty solid for a light tank. So I'm also going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now just like every other light tank in the game, they have horrible armor. This thing has 35 millimeters of hull armor and 30 millimeters of turret armor, but you do actually get slat armor, which does help against chemical rounds. But it's kind of useless in a BR where everyone is basically running APFSDS, so I take it off to keep the speed. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 for defense. As for the survivability, you do have a bunch of spall liners throughout the entire tank, but you have 3 crew members and 2 of them are sitting in the turret, and you have a very open ammunition storage area that makes the survivability of this tank abysmal. Also not helping is the extreme size of the EBRC Jag. I mean, it's bigger than your mother somehow. I'm pretty sure the French government during World War II survived longer than the Jag can. So for survivability, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. As for features, you get a laser warning system, smoke grenades, dual control, controlled suspension, a laser rangefinder, IRST, and a scout UAV. And you can't forget about the 2-plane stabilizer and the autoloader that I mentioned before. Overall, this is about what you expect for an 11.0 light tank, although with some additional upgrades. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for features. As for flexibility, this vehicle can play a lot of roles. It can flank with its high speed and good damage output. It can snipe with the MMPs, and it does have decent pen at distances. And you can kind of play as an SPAA, again with the MMPs taking out helicopters and using your HEVTs and your shrapnel rounds to take out any aircraft getting too close. The only thing you really shouldn't do with this vehicle is brawl. Everything else it can be good at. So for flexibility, I'm going to give this vehicle an 8 out of 10. As for difficulty, this vehicle is a little difficult to play because of its survivability and defense being so low, and its reliance on the shoot and scoot tactics. So essentially you're going to be playing this vehicle like a complete rat, sitting behind something that's really tall because you're tall, and then popping out and dishing a lot of damage out on a few enemies, and then going right back into cover. This is exactly what you should be doing with the Swedish IFVs. Now this definitely isn't possible in every map, but once you get a hang of this tactic, this vehicle becomes extremely good. So with 10 being the easiest, I'm going to give this vehicle a 5 out of 10. Moving on to the fun value, I'm definitely not foaming at the mouth to play this vehicle 24/7, but that being said, it is still a good vehicle and it's fun to use in some cases, especially if you get on the right maps. Additionally, overall, this vehicle is quite good for a light tank. So for its fun value, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. As for the worth value, the Jaguar gives you a really good 11.0 ground lineup for France. It pairs very well with the MSC overall. It also can play at top tier like every other light tank. It does does have a good damage output and it can contend with some of the lighter vehicles there. And its worth value is even more when you consider that it's a light tank and has the ability Airstrike, which allows you to get into your aircraft much faster. And at top tier, this can make the difference between winning and losing a game, especially when you get the Rafale in your lineup. So although it may be a little rough to grind, I believe this thing is very worth, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. This gives the French EBRC Jaguar light tank an overall score of a 62 out of 100. And let me know in the comments which new vehicle you want to see me review next.